Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and I'm back again in my Tier 10 Soviet medium tank, my favourite Tier 10 vehicle. It's the Object 140. Now I know I featured this on the channel last week and I thoroughly recommend that you go and check out that video called He Who Dares Wins if you want to find out about my full opinion on this tank and how it stacks up to the Object 430U and the T62A and so on and so forth. But I'm featuring the vehicle again because yesterday something kind of special happened for me and it was completely out of the blue, and that was that I picked up my first third mark of excellence in any tier 10 vehicle. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there are thinking, how the hell does QB not have more third mark of excellence in his tier 10 tanks? But for me it's never really been a priority. I'm focused on trying to win the games that I play. I really want to create some team play with the players on my team to be able to get through the battle, and quite often I put myself in harm's way. I want to play aggressive. World of Tanks is quite a slow-paced game, and I'm only really playing this game when I'm streaming on Twitch, and I want to make the game exciting, and nobody really wants to sit somebody... Well, I guess there are some of you who want to sit people who want to see content creators sit at the back and just play on the red line and just farm up as much damage and as much assistance as possible. But for me, I'm always trying to progress the fight. I'm always trying to put myself in a situation where I can win the game, and sometimes that means that I'm being too aggressive, especially in games where it's looking like it's going to be a disaster and it's going to be a terrible loss. And that's something that I've realized recently, is that one of the key reasons as to why maybe I'm not hitting so many of my marks of excellence is that it's about how well you do in a losing game, not putting yourself in harm's way unless it's absolutely safe to do so with your vision, like I did at the start of this game. And that's obviously where I've been making my mistakes. I'm throwing myself into the fight really early on, but arguably to try and win the game. I mean, you have to take shots. If I consider myself to be one of the better players in the team, I would hope that I would be able to use my armor better, or that I would maybe be able to distract the enemy and allow my allies to then focus their fire, or just get a bit of a respite to be able to engage more effectively. So that's always been my approach. I want to work with the team, and I don't mind dying if I think it's the only chance that I have to win the game. And I've realized that probably when it comes to Mark of Excellence, you're not actually trying to win the game, right? If you really want to just grind for those 3 marks or 2 marks or 1 marks, whatever you're trying to go for, it's not really about winning anymore. In fact, winning is kind of counterproductive. Sometimes you probably want either your team to melt a little bit so you can kind of be alone and just farm up at the end, or alternatively, you'd never want to cap, would you? Why would you want to end the game early when you can do 1 more point of damage or 1 more point of assistance, right? And so that's always been a mistake, and it's something that I've never really considered. Now, I'm not going to be changing my gameplay. Marks of Excellence for me are a mini game, and the focus for me is to try and win. And I would far rather have 1 or 2 epic battles where I really feel like we've got some teamwork, or I've just managed to have a profound impact in the game, than having a few extra stars on my gun barrel. Unless it's the Patriot. Because if it's the Patriot, for some reason that tank looks absolutely naked without having the stars on the barrel, because Wargaming have created those stripes that just align perfectly with the stars, and OCD triggered. Not that I really have OCD at all. I mean, sometimes I like to try and perfect things, and I'm always trying to look for ways of improving what I do and making it more efficient, or doing it faster, or just doing it better. But I don't really think I'd have OCD, so to say. I'm a bit funny about technology, and I remember when I was a kid, I was like about 3-4 years old, and I called somebody a stupid boy because they were kind of playing with my toys really weirdly. Anyway, I digress. Let's not go there. Back onto Marks of Excellence. And yeah, so I don't know, it's a fun mini game. It's definitely for some people. For me, I'm still going to try and be aggressive, try to win the game, and try and make that kind of World of Tanks content, especially because I'm only streaming when I'm doing it, really. Now, I can understand for a lot of players out there who are maybe not looking to just entertain and who want to play aggressive and want to win the game so much, that it's a nice hobby to have, right? Sometimes you want to look at the rest of your players just as kind of competition for the damage or the assistance, and you can just, it's a nice hobby. You can gain marks of excellence as you're going through all of your different vehicles. And for that, I completely understand as to why some people would want to do that. So I'm quite happy now that I understand that mindset, so I can also give better advice for players out there who are wanting to farm up some marks of excellence, maybe just for some kind of EP with your clanmate, or just as a little bit of a hobby. Maybe you've picked up all of your tanks and you're feeling a little bit bored of the game, and there's kind of a little bit, and you want to try and just extend the life of World of Tanks, especially in your favorite vehicles, right? Then it can be quite a fun thing to do. So we've been playing on Fisherman's Bay here, and what I've been trying to do is just play very safely, use the bushes, never go in, never take risks, never really try and push the tempo of the game, right up until the end, where now I feel like I can sacrifice my hit points to be able to progress the fight. But this isn't really me sacrificing my hit points to try and turn an engagement in the favor of our team, or me try and sacrifice my hit points to try and progress the fight, right? It's more of a case of now I'm just not really caring about my hit points because I can't take them with me, and all that really matters is that if I try and track, or I try and spot, or I try and get as much damage as I can. And that's another thing that's very important to consider if you're trying to go for marks of excellence, is that if you have a shot where you can either deal, say for example, 300 damage to a full health tank, or you've got 3-4 allies who are about to shoot them, it's very, very, very important to track the enemy tanks. If you can do that, that makes an absolute huge difference. And I've had quite a few games in my T100 LT recently where a tracking shot has made me get 2000 assistance damage. Now that's not going to help your WN8 at all, because WN8 doesn't affect assistance damage doesn't affect your WN8, but it can really help as well for your experience. But when you're talking about experience, remember that you're only getting 50% of the experience that you would get for the pure damage. So I guess from an experience point of view, you want to track if you think that you're going to get twice as much as the damage that you would have dealt to the target. Hopefully that makes sense. We failed to pick up the final kill on the 430U, but we end up with some pretty nice stats in the bottom left-hand corner, with over 10,500 combined in under 7.5 minutes. But this wasn't quite the game. This was more of an example of the kind of rounds that can massively boost your progress towards gaining either your first, second, or third mark. It's all about as much damage and as much assistance as you can combined, but nothing to do with experience and nothing to do with winning the battle. So remember, when you deal damage, you don't need to be spotting the target. Whereas if you want to gain high experience, you need to be spotting the target. And so what this really means for marks of excellence is that if you are just going to be damaging a target and you're not going to be providing any assistance damage, why not just let somebody else take the hits for you or spot the target for you? While on the other hand, if you're the one wanting to do the spotting, then you want to do so only when it's really safe. So while the previous game was tier 10 only, now we have got quite a few tier 8s that we're going to have to be battling out with. And I love these kind of games. All the colors are kind of matched up, and oh my word, it's a super unicorn showdown, and he's in an Object 907. I'm totally jealous. I really want one of those vehicles. It's just significantly better than all of the other tier 10 Soviet medium tanks, although not within every regard, and I'm not sure if any of the 907 drivers out there are going to be trying to hunt for 430Us. Anyway, what am I going to be doing on steps? Well, I'm going to be progressing into the middle of the map here because I want to try and get those initial spots at the start of the game. And I felt like the mouse is going to be so slow to race into position. The mouse is going to be so slow to get into position that I can try and have a good impact at the beginning of the game by just spotting out and maybe trying to see where the enemies are going, trying to counter some of the light tanks, counter some of the medium tanks, and oh, darn it. Looks like the 907 spots me, but he takes some damage as well. You'll notice that I use my repair kit on my fuel tanks, and that's because I'm not using a fire extinguisher in this tank. And so if you do have damaged fuel tanks and you don't have a fire extinguisher, or maybe just your extinguisher is on cooldown, definitely repair the fuel tanks in your Soviet vehicles and pretty much all of your vehicles as a rule of thumb. Now that Leopard managed to get 2 sneaky shots in, and look where they've both gone in. They're both right there on the lower plate, created a new set of googly eyes on the front of my vehicle, and I'm not liking this. I feel like those bushes don't really work too well, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull back, or maybe I'm going to try and go for another spot. I'm going to try and approach the bush from a different angle, and I poke up a tiny little bit, and my sixth sense immediately goes off. Wow, it looks like either the 907's got better view range than me, or maybe these bushes just don't work. So I'm going to try and stay in some cover to avoid the artillery shells, and I feel like I'm not really progressing the battle anymore now. We can see that the mouse is advancing along the northeast, and I've kind of my purpose is fulfilled in the center of the map. We spotted some of the vehicles. We got a kill on the Carnarvon, the Sturitsfang 1030. I got a bit of spotting out, which is very useful for if you're going for your marks. But I wasn't even really thinking about it when I was fighting this battle. I was more thinking about how can we win in our Super Unicorn Showdown, right? And I feel like no more use being in the center of the map. Let's leave that position and let's try and win one of the flanks, because if you can win one of the flanks, that's usually how you're going to win the battle. So I think either going down the west or the east at this moment, and seeing the mouse, I'm wondering how my team are going to be able to cut through a tier 10 German super heavy tank. And that 907 must have pretty darn good view range, or just an exceptionally skilled player there to blind fire a shot into me, because now I'm down to 737 and I don't get the best out of that trade. Luckily for me, it looks like this mouse is wilting under pressure. I'm not sure who from, maybe from the artillery, and we're going to start to sling some heat now into this super heavy German turret. Now I guess that's another thing that you could do if you're really close to a mark of excellence, is replace some of your standard rounds with premium rounds if you feel like that's going to help, especially on the tanks that use APCR instead of AP. Or maybe you could use full consumables like premium medkit. Every little helps. I don't know really. Again, this is something that just popped up completely randomly for me. I was just playing the Object 140 because I'd had an absolute horrible evening at tier 8 in the Progetto. I've still got to try and figure that tank out. The new Progetto 46, I think it is. The tier 8 premium. I'm not playing that tank very well at the moment, ladies and gents. I'm only getting about a 50% win ratio in it. So I was taking out my frustration with the Object 140, and boy, it looks like things worked out well for me. But anyway, let's focus on the game. I want to just stay hull down right now, avoid some shells from the Su-101, just try and spot out. Our artillery is giving us some good assistance, and now I have to advance. And I'm thinking, yeah, pretty good so far. Dealt with a mouse there, helped to get a couple of tier 8s taken care of, and it looks like the Object 907 is still sitting in the middle, which I'm quite surprised about. I thought that he would have left by now and maybe tried to advance. Ah, there you go. Object 907 is advancing out, and he realizes, okay, I've left. I'm cutting through one of the flanks. That means that he has to either come and fight me on my flank or alternatively cut out the other flank. And it looks like the Object 907 is deciding to avoid the fight in the east, or maybe it would just be more attractive for him to be able to cut through the west and kill those heavies as they were advancing through. It looks like he's doing a good job of that, because with assistance from that Leopard prototype who put those 2 rounds into us earlier, they finished off the 113 and also the other heavy tank. And so now that I see that they're breaking out the west, it's time for me to be very aggressive in the east. So I'm thinking, okay, if I can try and get the artillery out right now, it'll be a huge advantage for our team. And there you go, nice easy artillery shot here right into the side of the vehicle. One of the reasons why I just love this tank so much more than the Object 430U is that I don't really rely on my armor. I want good gun capacity, I want accuracy. The accuracy on this tank is so much better at 0.35 than 0.4 on the 430U. The DPM is off the hook. Not sure if I can get away with saying that really, but the DPM is really good on the vehicle, so you can't go wrong with it. And that allows us to just pick apart those tanks. Oh, darn it, missed the shot there on the Black Dog. And that 907 is continuing to cut through the west, but luckily it looks like our team is managing to advance through the east a little bit faster than he's able to do so. And so what we need to do right now is just keep progressing, just advance at the front of our team to try and be able to spot, to take the focus off, to try and put the pressure up. That's what it is to do now. Okay, ELC even 90, nice easy little tier 8 French light tank to take care of. I try to track him, missed the track, dodged the shell from the Leopard, was focusing on pointing my turret towards the Leopard so I didn't die there. And right now I'm thinking, okay, I can take a Leopard, right? And boy, this Leopard's got anti-QB rounds, ladies and gents. We take the Leopard's track off, but it has a repair kit, so he's able to stop me there. And I'm going to try and use the tiniest wreck in the game to avoid a shell from the Leopard prototype. I'm hoping the Leopard misses, and the gun's in the way, so I actually have to expose my tank a little bit too much. So a bit of a misplay there by me, but luckily we locked the Leopard down for long enough to allow the 430 to progress to kill the Leopard prototype. And we're going to have to just see how our team is going to be able to get through this one, because I've kind of left them alone against the 907. That's going to be a little bit worrying. Luckily for me, this Leopard's low on health. Doesn't look like the Leopard's going to last long against the Su-101. That Leopard's going to fall. Now we're going to race across to see what this 907 is going to do in a 1 versus 6 scenario with 2 artillery. But it looks like the 907 is going to be using the cover. Has caught the ELC even 90 reloading here. The artillery is marking the territory, rams the ELC even 90. Looks like somebody repairs. I think that was the ELC even 90 repairing something. The Jagdtiger bounces a shell or misses the shell completely from the 907 there, who's trying to focus the ELC even 90. The artillery misses a shot and actually stuns the Jagdtiger without damaging the 907. Finally, the artillery stuns the 907, who instantly uses their med kit to be able to get their crew back into effect. But sneaky Borsig comes up over the ridgeline and shuts down the final stand of that Clan Wars reward tank. And so there you have it, the third mark of excellence in the Object 140. And I would say that, oh, this feels really good, but to be honest, I didn't really care all that much. To be fair, I was more happy that we kind of won this Super Unicorn Showdown, although I did get out damaged, but I guess let's see if I did more spotting. Yeah, I did do more spotting. Even making a few credits as well, but then again, this was a very nice matchup. Now, our game on Fisherman's Bay, this one was much more impressive statistically, with a patrol duty, a Confederate, a high caliber, and a tank sniper. 6,340 damage dealt on 4,355, and again, a profit achieved. And so 3 marking tier 10 tanks, is it going to be my new hobby? No, not really. If they come naturally, I'm going to let them come naturally. But unless the way that I feel changes, I just see it as a mini game in World of Tanks, and I still can't agree with the fact that winning is of no importance to them. And the last thing that I really want to do is to consider not only the 15 players on the enemy team, my adversaries, but also the 14 players on my own team. Because effectively that's what you're doing. You're competing with your own team to deal as much damage and as much spotting as you possibly can. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, consider giving it a thumbs up. But if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about marks of excellence. Do you think that they're a fantastic thing to go for? Do you think they're the real skill in the game? Do you think that you should grind really hard to try and achieve them? Or do you think it's just something that should come more naturally and while you're trying to win the battle? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.